Morning, everyone. So, any questions from previous topic? Will you have practiced? I see one person has submitted. Dell user Anna 18. I think she is not available here. Okay, I have resubmitted back, which means she has to cross check once again. I can leave the comments here. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the final topic, which means technically I have to discuss the disk and the partitions, file system and all. That I'll be covering as part of EC2. Okay. So since we will be talking about operating system there as well, so there I have to cover disk partitions, file system, what is how to write a file system, how to mount a disk or how to mount a partition. All these particular points I'll be discussing over there. Okay. Now, yeah, let us talk about permissions. Permissions. First of all, the permissions can be managed on files. Okay, the files could be, as I told you before, individual files and a directory. What does it mean? I can manage the permissions on a file and a directory. For example, if you look at this output, here we have some directories and some files. The file could be anything. Some are regular files, some are package files, some are script files, could be of any type. But here I'm talking about in general files, whatever we have. For all these particular files and directory, we have certain permissions. If you remove the first one, first column, rest of the columns you have totally 9. The count is 9. Okay, so we have a count of 9. Let me write here. In that 9, you have to divide that into 3 parts. First 3 belongs to, I will say here, let us say hyphen, hyphen, hyphen. The first 3 belongs to user permissions. The next 3 belongs to group permissions, group permissions. Next 3 belongs to others. Apart from this user and group, if someone wants to access this particular file or directory, those permissions you have to manage from here. Okay. Now here we have certain kind of permissions. You see not only hyphen, you will see something like RWX. You can see here RWX. There are only 3 permission types. I'll write here permission types. So we have RWX. R in the sense what? Read. W in the sense write. X in the sense execute. Okay. Read, write, execute. RWX. That's a representation. Okay. Now, every user. So right now the question which everybody has is, you're saying this particular starting 3 belongs to user, next 3 belongs to group, and the next 3 belongs to others. Who is a user? I want to know which is a user having this particular permission. He is nothing but user ownership. It's nothing but user ownership, what you see here. Next 3 belongs to group. The permissions that you have given to the group. Now, if I give a permissions to the group, what is an advantage? If this user or any other user is added to this group, he will also have the same permissions on this particular file or a directory. Okay. Next is others. Apart from this user or a user belongs to this particular group, any other user, not this particular user or not a user who belongs to this particular group, any other user who is not part of this group is called as others. Now that particular user, what permissions he has on this particular directory. All these are written here. Okay. So this is all about user, group, and other permissions. I'll talk about what is RWX in detail. For now, this is the basic information. Next thing is, you might ask me a question saying that what is the default permission for a file? Which means when I try to create a file, what will be the permissions by default without me assigning it? I'm not assigning any file permissions, right? For example, touch. I will remove these files which are not necessary for now. All these are removed. That's it. Now let me create one file. Touch. Let us say demo file. I have not allocated any permissions, just I have created a file. My operating system will create this file in the location what I specified and it will get saved in the disk. Okay. Now those permissions which it will allocate is by default. So what is the meaning of this? I will let you know. Okay. For now, user is having read and write permissions. Hyphen in the sense what? There is no execute permission. Hyphen in the sense what? The permission is not assigned. Okay. For the user, we have only read and write permissions. Execute permission is not allocated. Next, you can see for group, we have given only read permission. For others also read permission. This is by default. Okay. If you try to create a directory, let us say what are the permissions. For a directory, if you create it, the permissions are for the user, it is read, write, execute. All the three permissions are assigned for a user. For a group, it is read and execute, no write permissions. For others also, it is the same read and execute permissions. So, default permissions for file and directory. What is the default permission for a file? It is read, write for a user, and read for a group, and read for others. I'll tell you what is the meaning of that in binary format as well. For directory, it is read, write, execute. For a user, read and execute for group, read and execute for others. Okay. So these are the default permissions for file and directory whenever you create on the system. Okay. Next one. Let us talk about the binary format. For example, you might have learned about octal format, binary format, and then decimal format like that. Okay. So there is a representation called O, sorry, 000, 001, 010, 011, 100, sorry, 110, and triple. What is this representation? Any idea? This is called what? You might have learned somewhere.
Binary format.
Binary. Any other guess? See, there are binary, there is a decimal, there is an octal, hexadecimal, different formats, right? What this falls under? You know what is okay, octal? Octal is represented from what? Octal means what? Eight, right? Eight. Okay. So we start counting from 0 to 7, right? So this is octal representation. Okay. If you see, this is represented as 0. This is represented as 1. I'll tell you how it is. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. And this is 5. Okay. And this is 6. And this is finally 7. Okay. How is this represented? There is an index position. Do you know when you write your integers and all, the binary format or decimal formats, position is so important. Place, we call it as index place. Now, in general, we'll go with higher number to lower number when you start counting from left hand side to right hand side. From the right hand side to the left hand side, we'll start counting it from lower number to higher number. Okay. So this is what just we need to remember. Now, base value we call it as. Now, according to that, here it is called as 4 because 2 to the power of 2. Index position is 2. Here the index position is 1 and here it is 0. What is the 2 to the power of 2 value? 4. And then 2 to the power of 1, 2. 2 to the power of 0, 1 it is. If you sum this particular position value, 4 plus 2 plus 1, what is the value? 7. 0 to 7. This is what it is. Okay. Now this 4 can be represented as R, read permission. 4 is represented as read. And in binary, I'm talking about means in what do you say in numerical format. If you want to understand this one, R is nothing but 4. Write is nothing but 2. Execute is nothing but 1. Now, if you say 0, what does it mean? There are no permissions assigned. If it is 1, what does it mean? Hyphen, hyphen, X. Why? Because only execute permissions. 1 right. That's the reason. Now, 2 in the sense what? We have to enable only write permission. Read permission will not be enabled. Only write permission and execute permission is also not enabled. Okay. Wherever you have 1, there you have to enable the permission. It is as simple as it. Read permission is not enabled. Only write and execute. Write and now 4. Only read permission. Then here read and execute. Here it is read and write. No execute. Here all the 3 permissions are enabled. So when you say 7, all the 3 permissions are enabled. Okay, when you say 6, only read and write permission is enabled. No execute permissions. Okay, initially you have to remember this particular concept. Why? Because either you can represent like this or we can represent like this as well. Convenience for us. Okay, finally we have to achieve the goal. Whether you achieve the goal either through this or through this, it doesn't matter to the operating system. You have to simplify your job. It can understand both the approaches. Okay, for that reason only I'm teaching you this particular decimal form, this in a numerical format of permissions. Now, coming back to this particular point, so when you say the default file permission is like this, how will you represent that in numerical format? Now, what is this called? Numerical format. For user, it is what is the permission? For user right now.
Read write.
Means what? Numerical format.
6.
6. And then what about other group?
Four.
4 and 4. So what is the default permission for a file? 644. Default permission for a file if you want to represent in numerical format. What about directory? It is full permissions 7. Read and execute permission. So it is 5. And for others also it is 5. Now visually it is better to read, right? When you compare with this one, visually which is a better one to read? This one. Okay. And this one is. Okay. So this is the basic information. Now based on this, okay, so we have to know how to assign the permissions or how to change the permissions for a files. It could be a file or it could be a directory. To do this particular activity, we have a command called chmod. Okay, the command is chmod. Yesterday we have learned to change the ownership. What is the command? Change owner. Chown. If you want to know about this, you can just read the document. Ch mod, or let's say, let me show you ch own man page, right? Document. You can see change file, owner, and group. The purpose of this command. In the bottom, you can see some options. How to execute them. I have written here some examples. Okay. Now, in the same way, now I want to know about chmod. You can see change file mode bits, means permissions technically. You can see here simple. Now many, sorry, they have not given us any examples for this. That's fine. I'll let you know how to do this. Here we can see effective uses are read, write, and execute. Okay, these are like this. Now let's go and see. Yeah, you look at this particular. For example, I have a requirement. And one more thing, just understand there are three different ways, symbols actually. Plus in the sense to add. Okay. Minus in the sense what? To remove. What mean by equal to? Assign, we call it as. Technically override. Okay. What is this? I will let you know. While executing this chmod command. I'll give you this whole data, what I've written here, a simple thing. Apart from the document file, what you have seen yesterday, this is simple data, what I have written right now. I'll share it with you in the classroom. Now, let us say what is this. Now, my requirement is I want to change the permissions of this particular file. The requirement is I want to give execute permission only to the user. I don't want to give it to the group and I don't want to give it to the others. That is the first thing. Listen carefully to this particular question. I want to give execute permission to a user. What does it mean? Forget about group and others. That's the meaning of it. Now, which means only for a user I have to give this execute permission. Now, second point what I have to remember is what about the existing permissions? Do I need to remove them and add the execute permission? No, it is not mentioned like that. He has told assign execute permissions to that particular user. That is the reason why existing permissions, what you have on the user, group, and others should not get modified. Additionally, we have to give this particular execute permissions. Okay. Let us see how that can be achieved. There are two methods. I told you either we can use numerical format or the alphabet format, whatever it is. Now, I would say numeric format is the best approach of this. Let us see how we can do that. Chmod, to whom you want to give this, user is represented as you. For example, I told you user is represented as U. Group is represented as G. Others are represented as O. User, group, others. Okay. Now this is so important. I want to assign additionally means add plus symbol. Okay. So I want to give execute permission to the user. So U plus X. Why? Because existing read and write permission should not get removed. Additionally, I need to give execute permission. So plus to whom it is this particular file. Enter. Now what happened? You can see for this particular file on the user, we have given additionally execute permissions. Others have not been disturbed. Okay, what is meant by equal to? Let me try to show you that. If I give equal to in this scenario, what will happen? The concept, the question, what was asked, and the thing what you have done will get differed. How come? Let us see. Now, if we check what happened, read and write permission has been removed. Additionally, only the execute permission was assigned. So this is called as override, which I've shown you. You have to be so careful while using equal to. Do you want to remove the existing permissions and add the new one? Then go for equal to. No, I want to keep the existing permissions as it is. Additionally, I want to add a permission, go for plus symbol. Got the point or any confusion part in this? Okay, let me give one more example. I want to remove this execute permission right now. How will you do that? Okay, first let me revert back the changes. How will you do that? Initially, the user is having only read and write. This is the initial state, right? So I brought it to that. User should have only read and write permissions. So I've overwritten the existing permissions, what it has. Now, the second requirement is scenario 2. I want to give execute permissions to user and group. I don't want to give it to others. What do we do? Chmod for a user, I want to give execute permissions. For a group also, I want to give execute permissions. And then the file name. This method will work. But instead of doing like this, we can use a shortcut as well. For a user and group, you want to give same permissions. So club them together like this. For a user and group, I want to add execute permissions. So don't separate them. Club them together and give the permission if it is the same permissions. And now if you cross check, for a user and group, we have assigned execute permission, not for others. If you want to assign for others as well at a time, for user, group, and others. Now, if you want to remove the execute permission for all of them, another shortcut is you can remove this one. To assign, you can give this particular shortcut. For all of them, user, group, and others, if you want to give execute permission, you can give like this. No, I want to remove execute permission for all three of them, user, group, and others. Minus. To remove it is minus. To add it is plus. To assign it is equivalent. Now if I execute this, execute permission was removed for user, group, and others. See, in certain conditions, numbers are pretty easy. In certain conditions, these characters are pretty easy. This is one of the example where we have to go for this particular characters. Then when we have to use that numbers, numerics, which I've taught you to understand the concept, let us understand. Now someone has told me that you need to allocate a permissions like 755 for a file. Okay, so someone has told me that you have to allocate full permissions for user. Okay, read and execute permission for the group and read and execute permissions for a file. Now the better approach is instead of using this particular characters, means numeric, sorry, not numeric characters, alphabet characters like read and write and execute, we can go for numeric. How is that possible? Chmod. First I have to calculate what is the full permissions, 7. Read and execute, 5. So 755 and the file name. That's it. And now if you cross check, you can see the permissions are 7 for user, 5 for group, 5 for others. Okay. In this way, numbers are pretty easy to handle. Okay. And let us say I want to change it back to 644. Chmod means initial permissions, 644 and they're done. But to understand this particular numeric, first you have to know the concept of converting it. Okay, that's the reason why I have given you this particular table so that you will understand how to convert that. Initially, you will what do you say? You have to calculate it. That will take some time. But once you get habituated to this particular approach, it will be pretty easy for you. Okay, even my guidance or someone guidance is not necessary to use this particular approach. See, the ultimate goal is whether you follow this approach or this approach, the permissions have to be modified according to your requirement. Okay, that is the ultimate what do you say, conclusion of that? Why we are doing all these particular things? Any questions here? No questions? Okay. Now, with the permissions, what we have learned, and one more thing, there is one interesting concept. Like, for example, you have a directory. Under the directory, we have some particular files. For example, I'm saying right now we don't have, right? Let me just create them. Okay, I'll create one subdirectory under that. So let us say cloud. Okay, under that particular thing, touch. Yeah, touch DevOps under that cloud. Under the cloud, let me try to create some files like AWS, sure, and GCP. Under DevOps, we have directory. Under the cloud directory, we have these three files: AWS, Azure, and GCP. Done. Now, why I'm saying you this one is, for example, there will be a requirement where if you want to apply the changes only to this directory, not to the subdirectories under that particular thing, and the files as well. In those conditions, what you can do, just you can add this particular let us say chmod 7, let us say 7, I want to give 744 permissions. Okay, and then DevOps and enter. If I give this, what will happen? The permission has been changed. Instead of 755, now it is 744, which means user will have full permissions, group will have only read permission, others will have only read permission. Now, if I go inside that particular directory, the directory was not affected. The directory still has what are the permissions we have initially? It has the same permissions. Okay. And if you look at under that, these files are as usual. Okay. Now, in the chmod, let me show you one documentation or help. Uh, just a second. Just a second. Okay. See. Oh, okay. This one is not necessary. Fine. Now, coming back to the point, let us see how I can change the permissions on the subdirectories and files as well. Okay. In those conditions, just we have to give chmod hyphen capital R recursive. If you want to apply it to the parent directory and the subdirectories under that, in those conditions, we have to give hyphen R recursive. Okay. In certain places, we use small r. In certain commands, we use capital R. For example, rm command, we use hyphen small r. In chmod or chown, we use capital R. But the concept is recursive. Recursive in the sense subdirectories. Now, I want to apply, let us say 744 to the DevOps directory I'm saying. Now, what happens to the DevOps directory? It had got changed. Now, if you check the DevOps subdirectory, that is cloud, it was changed. Earlier, it is 755. Now, what happened to the files? Let us see. Even files have been affected. Earlier files are having 644. I think now it is 744. Here, I have a question for you. Find out and let me know. Okay. Now, when I'm doing this particular task, by giving hyphen R, it should affect only directories. It should not affect files. You got my question, what I'm trying to say? When I'm trying to use this particular recursive approach, it is modifying the directories and files as well, which is not supposed to be. That's my requirement. In your organization, let us say you got a requirement like this. How will you approach or how will you find a solution for this? Okay. I hope you got the question. I'll give it in the classroom, first of all. You'll get some idea. I'll modify this one. I'll add one more question for this. Okay, this was the question. Now let me save. Today is the last day, so you have to complete it by today. This third question as well. Since I'm hoping first two questions you have answered, last question you have to complete. So this is the first thing which I want to discuss. And yeah, so this is all about the permissions which I want to discuss. Tomorrow we are going to start with cloud.